All right, everybody, welcome back. Today we're talking about Gene Rayburn's microphone, Rick Springfield's face, Eve Plum's gauntlet, and celebrities who should never sing. All right, everybody. Hey, so we're very excited today. We have our second only guest that has ever been on this show, and it is my good buddy, Mark Fernandez. Mark Fernandez is someone that I've known since way back in the early 90s. We used to do comedy together, usually at the Comedy Store, which is still around in La Jolla, California. Mark and I have worked together at different places throughout the years, video game testing companies, post-production studios, helping all those TV shows and movies make it to network air. Mark is still doing that, as well as just an amazing stand-up comic. And he continued with comedy and made something of it. I just dabble in it. But so cool to get Mark on the show, because Mark, just like Chris and I, has an absolute encyclopedic memory of all kinds of things that have to do with the retro days, right? The 70s, the 80s, going back to the 60s. Now, Chris is normally the show's encyclopedia. Mark can oftentimes tell you who was the director on that, who wrote that movie, who co-starred. And then he, I would say, is almost a savant when it comes to 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. He can tell you that guy was in that movie, but was also with that movie that starred that guy in that movie. So in addition to knowing what I mean when I say HooDoo, I mean, Mark, you can tell me who HooDoo is, right? From our childhood.
Charles Nelson Riley.
There you go. There you go. See?
It was a regular on Match Game, 78, with Gene Rayburn.
There you go. Now, I don't expect you to know who executive produced Match Game, but that is what I'm talking about, people. We did not rehearse.
Can you explain, Mark, what the hell was up with that long-ass skinny microphone that Gene Rayburn had? Nobody else had that. Nobody. Your Monty Halls, right? And your basically, who else? Chuck Eubanks. Nobody had that. But for some reason, he had one that was essentially a weapon or something. It was bizarre, but I guess just added to Gene's charm, I guess. I don't know.
Mark, explain.
It allowed Gene to walk around with his hands by his side. He didn't have to have hold a microphone like this. It allowed him to, because they didn't have remote mics, I guess, at that time, or maybe that's right. You know what I mean? So It was long so that he could assume some sort of a natural pose while he was speaking.
Good God. I want everyone listening to this to know that we did not rehearse that question. This isn't like Hollywood Squares, where, and I hate to say this, guys, as much as I love Paul Lynde, a genius of all geniuses in comedy, but he knew all of the questions that were going to be asked of him ahead of time. That's how Hollywood Squares works. So I'm a dick. I know. I ruined it for you. But we did not prep Mark for that question, and he knew that there was an actual logistic reason why Gene Rayburn was inexplicably holding what looked like a TV antenna that he just ripped off of someone's Chrysler LeBaron in his hand. I have no idea. So that he could feel more natural and put his hands to his side, and then scold Brett Summers for chain smoking out of her neck during every episode. So, Mark, I want to, since we're going off on wild sidetracks here, the Match Game it's always fascinated Chris and I, because it is a collection of celebrities, and I put that in big quotes, right? These are people that oftentimes you can't really place them from a TV show or a movie, Brett Summers in particular, but they were just sort of somehow, almost like celebrities in their own right. But what would you call them? D-celebrities? I mean, this was a big thing back then. JP Morgans? I mean, who are these people?
Fanny Flag.
Yeah. I only knew them from game shows, so I don't know. I mean, every once in a while there was somebody on there. Like I was just watching Match Game 78 the other day, because my mom is a huge game show person, and game show network's always on her TV. And I'm in San Diego right now at her house. And Gary Burghoff was the upper left, and then
Nice pull.
Hope Lang was the bottom left.
Hope Lang,
who not a lot of people. She was terrible on the show, but she, the Ghost and Mrs. Muir. She was the ghost.
Oh my God! Oh my God! That might be the deepest poll we've ever had on the entire show. Oh my God!
There were
a ton of people. Mrs. Muir.
A ton of people on there who like Brett Summers Klugman. By the way, that the only reason I knew who she was because she was married to Jack Klugman. That's how I knew who she was.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, she was married to Jack Klugman.
I think she even showed up on Odd Couple like once as his ex-wife, right? And I think that was
right. I think you're right.
But I have to digress. Excuse me, Mark. I have to take a step back and the Hope Lang part again. Basically, almost stopped Jeff in his tracks right here. But the casual, she was terrible. Like not only was Hope Lang on the show, she was not good. It was like you see him almost offended by the fact that she was on Match Game and she stunk. And I just, it's like, what did she do to get on that show?
It was hilarious because she knew she stunk. This is going to go off on a weird tangent, but she was almost apologizing for her crap.
Welcome to the show.
Kind of like, sorry, this is, it was nowhere near what the contestant had said. She had that thing, which reminds me of the weird tangent. So years ago, I went and saw an old roommate of mine, Bob Carwin, got me tickets to go see Corey Feldman performing at the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano. And so I was like, I'm not going to go. He goes, free tickets, man. It's Corey Feldman. I'm like, I don't want to see Corey Feldman. He goes, you're going to want to see Corey Feldman. And I went, and it was so fucking entertaining for all the wrong reasons. Man, to his credit, man, he's a performer. He's in it. He's giving you a show. In his mind, he's performing the shit out of every song and singing the shit out of every song, and he's there. The band he was with at that time, so the show was Corey Feldman and the Angels, and there was a bunch of Victoria's Secret hot women who were his band. Hot guitar player. I guess it's his now wife was a DJ. And then there was a guitar player, drummer, blah, blah, blah. So in most concerts and shows, there's a part of the show where one song, everybody gets to do a solo, right? So drummer does a solo, and the drummer was decent. Then the keyboard DJ person did a solo, and then the guitar player did a solo, and it was beep, beep, bop, bop. It was just like that. And then halfway through, she just kind of goes, like that's all I got.
She just looks at the audience like, I am so sorry.
Yeah,
shrugs her shoulders. I'm sorry.
I really should be somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I don't know. Do you want to tell him or should I, Jeff? As far as there are four people not on this podcast right now who are going to really enjoy your Corey Feldman anecdote. Because how long have we been joking about Corey Feldman at the House of Blues, and we made a 2 days ago. We made a Corey. No, but
thanks to Instagram. When those reels come by and they get your algorithm right. Oh, yeah. I must have paused a little bit too long on a very embarrassing outtake from a Corey Feldman performance.
Oh,
and once it knew my algorithm, then I just started getting obsessed with them. For the last 6 months or so, I have been inundating this little text thread that I'm on with Chris, with some old high school friends, with just random Corey Feldman performance moments. And Mark, I'm totally obsessed with it. The fact that you went and saw him live, and yeah, he seems like a very sweet guy.
Yeah,
but in his mind, nobody notices that everything he does is an exact copy of Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
That all of his moves, his costuming, everything is basically just, hey, imagine you never saw Michael Jackson do anything and he never existed. Check this shit out.
Yeah.
And then every performance, and I want to ask you if this happened at your performance, every performance, as far as I can tell, is met with miscues, technical problems, or somehow Corey getting upset that the song didn't go the way he thought, or that something got fucked up.
Yeah.
It's usually start and stop and go over again. And then Mark, so that did happen at yours?
there's that air for sure. There's that air for sure. 7 costume changes, which I thought was fantastic. 7
costume changes. Good, yeah.
And have you ever been to the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano?
Yes.
So the stage it's a pretty big stage, and the tables, the way it was set up at that time, the tables were right there at the edge of the stage. So he, during a couple of the songs, stepped out onto the tables into the crowd and is performing on tables. And there were about, I'm going to say 120 people there in that place, which is pretty fun.
Right.
So the outer perimeter were people like me, like going to see the horror and hoping to be entertained by the horror, which we were. And then the first 2 tables right up front were, I don't know what you call them. They were groupies. They were Corey heads. They were wearing his little fedora from Dream a Little Dream. There were about 15 to 20 of them all wearing the little fedoras. And when he went into the, stepped off the stage onto their table, they were freaking out. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, there's no shortage of people that really just are still, thinking about him in his movies back in the 80s. And by the way, he made some great ones. No one's saying that. And I know he went through some really hard, emotional, strange things. I mean, he's probably the poster child for cautionary tales of what can happen to a child star. But he's also, I do have to give him credit, right? Because he just does not give a F, right? That guy, like you said, Mark, he is just either not aware of how bad it is or just doesn't care, and good for him. But holy moly. Yeah. Let me ask you one last question. Did he do the song, Here He Comes, the Comeback Kid? Here he comes, the comeback kid. That's his big one.
I don't remember that song.
Okay, that's apparently a big one. At least on Instagram, that's the big one. Okay.
But I think you're right, and I feel like the people around him who manage him, that this conversation has happened plenty of times where someone says, "Should we tell him?" and someone goes, "Nah."
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, don't tell him.
Should we say
that's
something?
Yeah. That well, first of all, Dream a Little Dream was a very nice poll. Yeah. And then, should we tell him, Jeff? It's almost like, I don't know, demonstrating an exercise machine on a TV show. But maybe not. Should we tell him part? Never mind. We can move on. That was a bit of an inside joke.
Well, but this goes in a theme that I really love, which is, and because we have Mark on the show, who again, can really dig deep on some of his memories. I really just love all of these people from back then who had a brush with celebrity, and then either are still trying to make it, and it's kind of sad and weird. Another good example would be Rick Springfield. The only reason I bring this up is, obviously, Mark, what famous show was he on for years?
General Hospital. Dr. Noah.
Of course. Oh, Jesus. I didn't. Okay. And the character name too.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he became a pop star, right, with his music.
Right.
And I'm sure you can name at least 2 of his big hits.
Well, he was like one of my dudes, man. Rich Springfield was one of my dudes. I started watching General Hospital early on because I was going to San Diego State at the time. And so hot girls hung out at the student center at San Diego State. And
I see where you're going with this. Okay.
Not at UCSD, Jeff. That's been established.
Yeah, they were watching soap operas. So I started watching soap operas. So I cleverly scheduled my classes and never had classes from 11 to 1, 1 to 2. So 11 to noon was Young and the Restless. 12 to 1, All My Children. 1 to 2, One Life to Live. And 2 to 3 was General Hospital. So I never had classes.
Jesus Christ, Rain Man.
I know. So I never had classes in that area, and that's when Rick Springfield was coming on the show there on General Hospital. But even before that, it was Jesse's Girl. Come on, it's Jesse's Girl.
Of course,
I think
his first album, Working Class Dog, was one of my favorite albums of all time.
Well, there's that other one. You Gotta Love Somebody. Wasn't that the other song, or that was
that was from his movie, which was called Hard to Hold, which is actually hard to watch. But
now Mark suddenly has a
Mark's doing material.
No, that's perfect for his rating the movies side podcast here, which is also hard to watch. I love that. A perfect segue. But Chris, did you see did you see how effortlessly I did not prep him for Rick Springfield. That came up completely randomly, and he was able to not only mention all the songs, but what came later and his, yeah. So look, nothing against Rick Springfield. He always seemed to me like one of those guys where if you just met him in public, he'd probably be just the sweetest, nicest guy ever. Yeah. My only point in this whole stupid thread here was, again, Instagram, right? I just happened to see some up-to-date thing where he was with, I'll think of this guy's name in a second. The singer's name is Mark something or other. But anyway, so they're doing a concert together. It's going to, it either happened a few months ago or it's going to happen. And poor Rick Springfield, man, he just looks like he got hit. He just got stung in the face with 1,000 blowfish, right? Well, just like the Botox central, just weird surprised eyebrows and just the strangest, perma expression on his face. And you just think, I get it. I guess women still want to see it, but I just think, why, dude? I don't know. It was just so freaking weird to see that face.
Even a weirder correlation or connection to Rick Springfield. Years ago, I coached youth soccer, my little brother's youth soccer team. One of the players on the team was a kid named Jorge Palacios, who is now Rick Springfield's drummer.
Okay. Jesus, now that is a complete.
I know. That's just,
wow.
That's about as
a
poll
as you can get there on the poll there. I don't know if it's a poll. It's something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rick Springfield, if I remember correctly, there was, and this could go back because a common theme on this show has been magic, and like there was a Saturday morning cartoon. I want to say it was called Mission Magic, and he was on it. And this is what he was, because he was actually Australian, right?
Jesus,
and I think,
Chris.
Yes, I think God. This is where, see, now Mark's laid down the gauntlet, and now it's like, we'll be talking about, not really. But and I think he was actually Australian, and there he didn't really cover up his Australian accent.
No, that's when he still had an Australian accent.
Right.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, but I think, and the thing, and I think a good description, Jeff, where you talk about Rick Springfield, who's got to be like 75 years old, right? And by now,
right? No kidding. Yeah,
I think now but he's kind of got that 80s hair, and he just maybe rode hard and put away wet might be a good description of just how he looks now. But in the sense,
well, he's 75. Let's not be. Yeah, I mean,
Right. I think of two things with that. And number one, from that song, you had to go look up and say when, he wants to tell her that he loves her, but the point is probably moot. How many people had no idea what the hell he was talking about?
That, by the way, I acknowledge that is one of the worst lyrics ever in any rock song.
Hold on a second. Let me please one-up you with Rick Springfield himself. He actually rhymed the word nylon with pylon in a song. I can't remember what it was, but da-da-da-da with their nylon, blah, blah, like a little orange pylon.
I know what a pylon is, though, Jeff. I know what a pylon is. Don't tell me that you know.
But he could only Rick Springfield could one up Rick Springfield on the worst lyric writing. And yet, sorry, Chris, I apologize. You can get right back into that, but I have to say this. I loved I've done everything.
That's the one I was thinking
you.
About. Yeah,
that's one of my favorite songs. Right. And Mark and I.
That's actually written by Sammy Hagar.
Oh no! Oh, Chris, did you hear that? Oh no!
Oh, Jeff, you've got to reassess your priorities now.
Oh, did you not like Van Hagar, dude?
Oh, God,
he's on Jeff's blacklist. Whatever.
Anyone that's listened to the show knows that Sammy Hagar, for nothing that he did, Sammy Hagar is probably a great guy too. Everyone on my list, Mark, is somebody that doesn't deserve it, but for some reason in the entertainment world, I have just voted no, thank you. Yeah. And Sammy Hagar is at the top of my list of God, please, no, thank you. I'll have anything else but that. But that is very funny. I deserve it. Yeah. So. Sorry, Chris, I think I interrupted your train of thought there.
The Rick Springfield thing, and again, here's a question. I have a question for the group. It's like, so this is a chicken and egg thing. Like Rick Springfield, okay, was he a singer before he went on General Hospital, or did he go to General Hospital singer? Because again, as we talked about, and I'm sure you can, exactly, you can just riff on the whole thing. The phenomenon at that time with, you know what? I'm on a TV show, or I think it was TV shows. I don't think actual serious movie actors did this. I'm going to sing, right? I'm going to do. John Travolta, even before Grease, did an album right? You could see all these people that were all of a sudden like, there was anybody else that could just decide. And you can go down the rabbit hole of these videos of these people deciding they're going to sing, they're going to go on a variety show and sing. And again, much like that, nobody's like, okay, who's going to tell them? Who's going to tell them that they cannot sing? Right. And it was just like,
right. I mean, he's an example of someone that could sing, though. He could sing, he's got a good voice, I think. Decent. Yeah.
Okay. But again, when you saw the clips of, or they somehow do a contrivance in some sort of show where
for sure
it's Chips. For some reason, you've got Chips and somehow Eric Estrada is going to end up singing. He's a highway patrolman. Right. But he's going to go sing on stage just so you can stroke Eric Estrada's ego and he can sing and maybe release an album.
I will give Eric Estrada, because this is again, Mark, again, go back to the internet. We recently saw a clip of Eric Estrada performing in front of a live audience as a singer and doing all of his disco moves. And of course he had to, right? Because he was a huge celebrity sex symbol back then.
Yeah.
And I will give him credit for one thing, which is he knew, or they knew, or somebody knew how bad of a voice he has. I mean, to say that he was out of pitch and in the wrong key is an understatement, right? But he must have said to somebody, no, man, I don't want to fake it. I want to really do it. So God bless him. Or maybe his ego was too big, but oh my God, what a train wreck. And then we just saw Sherman Hemsley, right? A clip of him where he was doing some kind of, performance, and he's just dancing around in an aluminum foil jumpsuit with a bunch of backup dancers. And it was horrific. I mean, the poor guy, whoever wrote that song, no discernible melody, just, and just a bunch of, oh my God. And it goes back to our point of, hey man, how else can we make money on, whatever traction this celebrity has gotten? Let's just do everything and see what sticks,
So I just texted you a picture of me. This is how much of Rick Springfield I was into. That with Rick Springfield hair. That picture I texted you, which you can insert later on. But me with Rick Springfield hair. With the John Travolta thing, John Travolta had a big hit single with a song called "Let Her In," which I remember seeing on American Bandstand. But that was it was Welcome Back, Kotter. Then he sang, just like Chris said, and that was a big deal. Along the same lines, a guy named Jack Wagner, who people may also remember from General Hospital. He played Frisco Jones on General Hospital. Frisco Jones on General Hospital was a singer also, and I can't remember his. All I Need. That's right. All I Need.
Oh my God. I'm just going to let you guys go into a separate room and hash it out. This is absolutely exactly what I wanted to happen. I'm so excited right now. I'm sorry. I'm thrilled that the two Wikipedias have finally joined forces.
Jennifer Love Hewitt had a big hit in Japan. She was a big pop star in Japan before she, actually she was really young. She was like 14 and she was a big pop star in Japan. And her album, which was considered inappropriately titled at the time, her big single was a song called "Let's Go Bang," which it was nice. The noise. It was just about the noise, but they found it inappropriate.
By the way, that's all you had to say. Jennifer Love Hewitt, "Let's Go Bang." I'm in. I don't know what it is. Just that's all I would need. No advertising there. Just I don't even know what the context is.
Yeah, how much are tickets?
If you said Jeff, it's going to cost $150 to go to an auditorium. I can't tell you anything about the show or what it is. All I can tell you is Jennifer Love Hewitt, "Let's Go Bang." I'm like, dude, I'm there. I'm canceling that wedding. I'm on my way.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And now she's one of those people too. We don't need to get too sidetracked, I guess, but talk about someone that always just seems like the nicest person on the planet. Maybe that's just my impression, but she always just seemed like a super cool person. I imagine anyway. I don't know. What do I know? Now, in the case of Rick Springfield, he had a very successful music career, which continues to this day. Oh, and by the way, Mark, the guy that he's touring with, someone I do not like. This would be someone that ranks right up there with Sammy Hagar, and that's Richard Marx.
Oh.
Just, to me, that is, you may as well make me sit in a room and listen to Maroon 5.
No.
Right? That's how bad it is. If I could just sit there and look at Adam Levine's generic, super thought out, media tested, focus group tattoos and listen to the most homogenized, this is what everyone's going to like to listen to music, I would certainly have Richard Marx open for him just so that I could put a bullet in my brain at the end of it.
Yeah.
That would be a perfect concert.
David Hasselhoff was one too, right? Wasn't he like a big star in Germany?
Now I will take exception to David Hasselhoff, which is he has the rare exception of dun 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 knowing that it's a little bit silly and always playing into it and being the first guy to be self-deprecating. I'm not saying he may not be kind of a weirdo and kind of maybe he's got an ego and all that, but he always struck me as someone who definitely gets the silliness of it, kind of like Adam West totally got it.
Yeah.
And played into it and cheesed it up and had no problem being goofy because, hey, I get it. I'm the Hoff, so I appreciate that.
Hoff. Come on, man.
Yeah. And I just love everything he does, but maybe I'm off on that, but I love him. In fact, sorry, one last thing. I actually have one of the albums that he just put out a couple years ago where he does cover songs, but they're all like 1980s super hip, awesome, like alt new wave punk songs from the 80s.
Really?
And he does really, really decent covers of them. And the people that are playing the instruments are people from those bands.
Wow.
Right. So if you get a chance, check it out. But I mean, he does a version of Open Your Eyes by Lords of the New Church that is actually really damn good.
Wow.
And he also does the Jesus
nice
and Mary chain. Right. Yeah.
What's the name of this album? I need to find this album.
I'll have to send it to you. I'm sure if you go on the interweb right now, you can find it pretty easily.
Okay.
But and then Sweet Caroline. One of the coolest versions of Sweet Caroline I've ever heard.
Wow.
So yeah, really, really cool. Check that out, weirdos.
Well, I actually have, and someone gave it to me as a gift, and I think they were serious. I have a Bruce Willis album. Okay, he's singing like bluesy, and he does like, I mean, they're all covers, but ranging from like
as Bruno.
Yeah, yes, it's like called like the Return of Bruno or something like that. But it's I mean, it's not like he's playing a character. I mean, I guess he kind of is, but I think he did have one of those people that was out. I mean, Russell Crowe played at the Belly Up Tavern one time. You know what I mean? All these guys have these bands, but it's like Secret Agent Man and Respect Yourself.
Whoa.
Okay, like the staple singers. I mean, it was like, and this person gave it to me in very earnestly, and I'm like, yeah, I did like Die Hard. Thanks. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I think I still have it somewhere. So here's another one. All right, let me do an album.
So, Mark, in looking back at this idea of again, ill-fated or ill-conceived launches of a celebrity's extended career. This can include somebody that went too far with their career and it just kind of fizzled and burnt and crashed. Or it could just be, one little moment where it was like, ooh, that was a bad idea. I'm thinking of things like the Brady Bunch Hour or the variety shows that came out later where even Eve Plum said, oh, fuck no. I want nothing to do with this horrific
Eve Plum had some standards.
All y'all. Yeah. And who would have thought Eve Plum would be the one laying down the gauntlet? No, thank you.
That's
no,
the one
guys.
about the self-esteem issues.
This was super fun. I have something called integrity. So I'm going to let you guys perform on stage at the outdoor amphitheater in Pacoima with Johnny Whitaker and the cast of Sigmund and the Sea Monster. You go for it. You do that. That's right.
Damn it, Johnny Whitaker.
Well, hey, by the way, Johnny Whitaker, young child star. Mark, walk us through the start of his career, all the way to the strangeness that ensued. I don't know, as far as you can take it, but I bet you could take him through a few iterations of his career.
Well, my first Johnny Whitaker exposure was Family Affair, of course, right?
Yeah.
Was he there before that?
Yeah.
Jody, right? It was Buffy and Jody? He was
Jody, and Anissa Jones played Buffy, who I guess went on and had drug problems or something.
Yeah,
right.
That was sad.
There was a punk band. There was a punk band that did a song, Buffy, Buffy, come back to me.
Why'd you have to go and OD?
Yeah. And then that's Brian Keith, of course, as Uncle Bill, and Sebastian Cabot as Mr. French.
Who shot himself.
Mr. French, the earliest iteration of manservants I ever saw.
Thanks for that, Chris. Mr. Upbeat over there. Yes, Brian Keith did shoot himself. God.
Well, no, but it was very dark. It's like she OD'd, right? And I think he eventually. I mean, he did a lot of. He killed. He was one of those ones that he was on different shows. I mean, Brian Keith had shows into the maybe 70s and 80s.
Many
but I think
shows.
He did eventually just. Yeah, I mean, I think he shot himself. So it's like he was obviously wrestling demons for a long time.
Chris, you would too. You would too if you were a rough and tumble judge who was a pro-gun kind of a guy, and you had to deal.
Hardcastle and McCormick, yeah.
Oh, maybe. Oh, was that a TV show? I thought I was talking about reality. I thought he actually got hooked up with a young rebel named Mark McCormick who had, was a race car driver, but he had to somehow convert him into his go-to guy to round up all these dudes that had somehow escaped the law.
Yeah.
Using a souped-up kit car from the 1980s. Yeah, that's what. By the way, great theme song that goes in the Hardcastle and McCormick has one of the best opening theme songs. Sometimes I just sit there. I can't do it right now because it's just a weird theme song. It's not in my key, Mark, but check that out.
Yeah, dude, I'll have to.
Very fun. Worst lyrics ever. Horrible lyrics, but a good song. Yes, go ahead.
Before we get back to the Johnny Whitaker discourse, but again, and you talked about Mark, yes, like Mr. French, I guess outside of Alfred, right, and Bruce Wayne's manager is like, yes, it was definitely, he had a butler, right, and there was
yeah,
but it was that trope that just like here's somebody who becomes a parent, right, out of nowhere. There's all these just suddenly orphaned kids. And that was that's the writer's pitch, right? Hey, I got an idea, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, this guy's got a hot dog cart, and all of a sudden he's got 3 kids. So John, where was Johnny Whitaker after? Did he go directly to Sigmund, or did he have something? Yeah, did he have his?
I don't know what was in there in between, but my favorite Mr. French Sebastian Cabot moment was there was an episode where he was making them sandwiches, and he didn't call them Sloppy Joes. He called them Untidy Samuels.
Oh man! Yeah. You see, Chris, how that's funny because you see he did the silly British over-explaining literal thing. Yeah, that's why that one's
Untidy
a good one.
Untidy Samuels.
Untidy. Nice. By the way, greatest punk band ever. Untidy Samuels.
Yeah.
That is a great. Oh man, would that be a good punk band name?
Well, talk about nice people for a band name,
right? Or even just Mr. French would be a good one.
The Untidy Samuels.
Yeah.
And Mr. French, my favorite Sebastian Cabot moment was actually not on that show at all, but on the Twilight Zone. Oh. Where now, I'll hold on for a second. Maybe Mark knows the episode I'm talking about, so let me pause. Do you know what I'm talking about, Mark?
I don't.
Yeah, so he was on a Twilight Zone that was a classic. This thug, just kind of a low-level criminal, dies and ends up going to the afterlife. And in the afterlife, he can't lose. Every time he bets on anything, he wins tons of money. He can rob every bank with no problem. Everything's going his way. He's as rich can be. And Sebastian Cabot is kind of his host in the afterlife. What would you like now? Now, how can I help you, sir?
Oh.
And in the end, Sebastian Cabot reveals to him the truth. Hey, man, the guy says, this is heaven. Can I get you to make it so I don't win all the time and make it a little more interesting? Sure, of course, sir. But what made you think you're in heaven? Right?
Oh.
No, sir. This is, and he kind of starts laughing, and you can see the look in his eyes that now he was in a personal hell where he finally got everything he wanted, but it was incredibly boring. And that's how he's going to have to spend his life for eternity, is just with nothing but boring shit and, never having any challenges and blah, blah, blah. Now, I look back on that and think, well, actually, I could live a pretty long time in that world. So I think you think I'm in hell, but I think it's going to take longer than you think for me to get bored of this, is what I think.
One man's hell.
So wait, so this is how this is. Can I have another cheeseburger? I have to think about this for a while. Can I have another cheeseburger and a margarita? Is that cool?
Yeah, this is terrible. I'm suffering, by the way, right now. Do you guys have Chipotle? Has that been invented yet? No. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Rod Serling and Twilight Zone, those were all fantastic. And that reminds me of another Rod Serling show called Night Gallery. Remember Night Gallery?
Yep.
Do I ever?
There was an
Terrified me. To
episode.
this day, I still have nightmares from that show.
Well, the classic one was the doll. The doll that was similar to Talking Tina on Twilight Zone, but this Night Gallery version of the doll was a doll is given to a British general's granddaughter, and it ends up being some sort of a moving around scary doll that kills the British general eventually. And at the end of the episode, there's an Indian general who receives a package in the mail, and he opens up the box, and it's a doll of a British soldier, and it opens its eyes and smiles, and then it cuts to black.
Okay, very interesting. I've never seen that episode of Night Gallery, but I think Chris and I were thinking the same thing for one quick second. We thought you might be talking about Trilogy of Terror, which I know you know, Mark. Yeah, we thought, and we've already talked about that on the show, but of course, nobody was expecting that at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night to be effing ABC terrified beyond belief by the the Zuni warrior doll. But that's a good one. I like that. They switched it up. That's a classic. And Night Gallery, and let's go into a super nice poll here, or at least a deep poll. Night Gallery really, Rod Serling hated it. The reason he hated it was because the budget was shit. So the very beginning was always him walking through a gallery of art, kind of in the dark. Yeah. And these artists that they got to paint these paintings, I mean, to this day, some of those paintings just haunt me. Yeah. In fact, I went to an exhibit 5 years ago up in LA where they had all those actual paintings from the show. Oh, wow. And you're able to walk through and look at them up close. But I mean, if you've never seen it, people listening in, they are truly horrific, and they kind of give you this weird, scary 70s vibe that you just can't quite, place. But anyway, he hated it because what they did to make a long story short, if I can even possibly do this, is they rehashed a different show, oftentimes, that starred a completely different guy as a psychic that would help people. It was supposed to be a detective show. So they blended that in. They never did post-production on it, Mark. So you're going to see this scene is red. This scene is horribly blue. Now there's a jump cut. I mean, the editing was shitty. And then the ones that they did put in just for the Night Gallery, most of them Rod Serling didn't write. And so it was just this clusterfuck of let's just throw this hodgepodge together and slap Rod Serling's name on it. Dun, dun, dun. Doesn't mean they didn't have a few good episodes, but yeah, it could have been so much better. Huh. There you go. That was my Patton Oswalt, version of what happened behind the scenes.
Well, then I guess, but Steven Spielberg, if I understand, got his start. I think one of his first directing gigs was on an episode of Night Gallery, and I think when you look, so nice if you look at that, so that in a sense, and I think that got him his first TV movie. I mean, so if you look back. I vaguely, I don't remember any of the shows at all. I just remember
because
that
your
it was
brain made it go away because it was too traumatizing.
It was Rod Serling, and it was in color, and that was really but it was definitely no Twilight Zone. But the fact that he would have, he also wrote the screenplay for Planet of the Apes, which is like people don't give him enough credit for that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's a real
and when you think of it, Planet of the Apes has the ultimate Twilight Zone ending, right? I mean, was there ever more of a Twilight Zone ending than Planet of the Apes? I mean, other than The Sixth Sense, I mean, that's one of the most, applauded, tricks you could ever do. Even as a young kid, I did think it was odd that these people allegedly landed on a planet where everyone spoke English. I thought that should have been your first clue, is that these apes are all speaking English. But hey, not for me to say. But yeah. Could have maybe had a clue there.
Those, I mean, I don't know. All of them hold. I mean, obviously the first one, like you said, yes, that's an iconic, and that changed. Yeah, that ending in the first one, and the second one. Okay, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched a film that came out, I think in maybe 1969, with Beneath the Planet of the Apes, where they essentially blew up the Planet of the Apes, right?
I think you're safe, Chris, in giving that away.
Yes, but then they still pulled 3 more films out of it, right? And
sure,
and looking back at those, and there's still, and I don't know if those experiences where we've had trying to show one of our kids or, someone of a younger generation, oh, you got to watch it. This is great. And then you sit down and the film doesn't hold up, and you can tell, as cheesy as they were, and, the special effects and everything else, but they're still just so great. And you can watch them, I think right now they're all on Hulu, I think, but it's just, those 5 films, just again, and made by different directors and featuring different actors and everything. And yes, they've redone them now, but they're in their second wave of the newer versions and everything else. But they're great.
I like the new ones.
Yeah, but I think just Planet of the Apes, just saying that phrase, right? They did it on The Simpsons. They did like a musical version, right, of Planet of the Apes.
Dr. Zaius.
Dr. Zaius.
You made a monkey out of me.
Right.
Yeah, that was great.
Right. Anybody would have been part of our fabric of our culture when that movie first came out in 1968. Nobody would have.
Yep. Yeah, no, totally. Everybody had to. And I remember even as a kid growing up in the 70s, it was so exciting when Planet of the Apes masks came out. And they were soft rubber. And man, that was so cool for Halloween to have a Planet of the Apes mask. That was something else. Mark, did you ever have like a Planet of the Apes action figure? Anyone that nerdy to have one of those?
The only action figure I ever got was a Joe Namath quarterback football doll. That's the only one I ever had.
I had that.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can see that I am the one that would get his ass kicked by you two back then. I get it now. You would have not thought of me as a cool kid.
I don't know about that. I used to bobby pin flannel blankets to my shoulders so they'd be a cape, and I'd run around the neighborhood like I was a superhero. So I don't know.
Well, I had plenty of action figures. That's okay, Jeff. I did go out and touch grass.
Well, Chris, are you in our club though, Chris? Did you ever safety pin a towel?
Absolutely. It was like an old pillowcase. Yeah. So it was really soft and cotton. It was great.
What was your favorite Saturday morning cartoon? Do you remember the big set? They're not big anymore, Saturday morning cartoons.
There's too many cartoons. Right.
Well, I think the reason, right, guys, though, is we talked about this. Network television is kind of going away right now. Many people have switched over to streaming, which means there's really no consistency, right? But back in our day, of course, we've said this a million times, ABC, CBS, NBC, that's all you had, period. End of story. So you kind of, everyone knew the same cartoons, right?
That's a great question, though, Mark, is what the favorites were. Because, again, you had your standard, whether it was like, again, like a Super Friends, right, or something like that, versus the one that had the live action ones that were mixed, that were sort of badly. Yeah, I leaned toward the superhero ones, whether it was Super Friends or Shazam. ISIS was pretty hot, if I remember correctly.
What kind of hot? I'm sorry. Do you kind of remember correctly?
Yes, I said pretty hot. She was no Lynde Carter.
Jesus Christ.
She was She was a Saturday morning version of Lynde Carter. Let's just put it that way. Oh my
God.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would think any of the
wow.
I think I like those. I think I'd lean towards those, the superhero themes.
I lean towards Dyna Girl.
Electro Woman and Dyna Girl? Yeah.
Yeah, Judy Strange. Judy Strange.
Okay, here we go.
From Room 222. She was on before that.
Dude, Judy Strange is, I'm sorry, but the ponytails.
Yeah.
You win. I please take all my money. I'll watch anything you do. There you go. I'm done.
See, we had a discourse about this a while back where, Mark, but Jeff actually said it was Karen Valentine. And I'm like, it wasn't Karen Valentine. And then he corrected himself.
That's Dyna Girl?
Right. Because
in Room 222.
Yeah, but you mixed the Room 222 together. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
But you had a gotcha moment. You had a gotcha. It's like we were both right. It wasn't Karen Valentine, but it was somebody from Room 222.
Loved her too.
So we were both right. Let's just put it that way.
There is Karen Black, Karen Valentine, and Judy Strangeous do have a vibe. They all have a certain vibe, but not so much Karen Black. Karen Black, I think, was the one that actually was in Trilogy of Terror.
Yeah,
she was.
I think that was Karen Black.
She was in Capricorn 1.
I'm sorry, but Karen Valentine was in an episode of Love American Style that I remember. That was with Davy Jones,
which I wasn't allowed to watch.
You couldn't watch Love American Style?
I couldn't watch. My parents wouldn't let me watch it. It was on 10 o'clock on a Friday. It was too late anyway. But I was also not allowed to watch the very first iteration of Saturday Night Fever until they came out with a PG version.
Yeah.
Because it was
the girl that played Angie does get nailed in that movie. So there's my poll, right? Yeah, there you go. And I liked her in almost everything
yeah.
she did. She's a really great actress. She was cool.
She
What's that,
was
Chris?
recently in a commercial with John Travolta. She was recently in a commercial
cool.
with John Travolta. I don't know if you saw it, where he plays he plays like Santa Claus, and it's like a "What's in Your Wallet" commercial. And then John Travolta is Santa Claus, and then he hands his Citibank card to a clerk, and it's Donna Pescow, and she gives him a little.
I'm still having an issue with weird old bald John Travolta right now. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, here's one for you that the people at home may or may not get a kick out of, but I kind of liked this. John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, and I think we've mentioned this before, Chris. We might have touched on Grease just a little bit, but of course that was a big part of everyone's childhood. Whether or not you liked that kind of music, I loved that musical, but then again, I wear a cape, so. Hey, there was a fan fiction concept here for what that movie was really about, and of course, I don't think they really think this, but how's this for a theory, right? Sandy, right, at the very beginning, according to the song "Summer Lovin'," right, she was about to drown in the ocean, and then John Travolta comes up and saves her and splashes around and shows off and that whole thing. But here's a girl that was from Australia, kind of an outcast. She was about to start her first year at this new high school in America, knowing that she wouldn't fit in, and
she was
yet
30 years old.
Somehow throughout the entire film, everything just magically works out for her. She's able to become the opposite of what she started out as. Now she's smoking cigarettes and she's super cool and all the cool kids like her. And in the end of the movie, they totally break the whole tone of the film and they drive off into the sky, into the clouds, right?
Right.
So the fan theory is that Sandy actually died, that she was in the water and she was dying and he was unable to save her, but she saw his face and had this whole imagining of what her life would be like in her last moments of life. And then at the end, of course, ends up in heaven. Now, of course, that's not true, but I thought that was kind of clever, kind of a cool...
What do you mean it's not true? Prove it.
And John Travolta was actually Sebastian Cabot?
And John Travolta was actually Sebastian Cabot. Exactly. Yep, exactly. And they all ended up down at a beach for real, but this time they go into a cave on the beach and they find a sea monster. Right. And that sea monster is scared, right, because he has really mean brothers and sisters. And it all comes full circle because now here comes Jack Wilde with a golden flute. And he's going to wait. Sorry.
You got some real fan fiction going there.
Yeah. Good job. Oh, man. Mark's in. He did the Charles Nelson Riley HooDoo. How's that for a topper? All right. Well, hey, with that being said, what do you think, Chris? Until next time?
Until next time. Until next time, Mark?
Until next time, guys.